today we're going to talk about one of the most controversial also. A lot of pastors are afraid to preach this, but in my personal opinion, if you love your congregation, if you want them to be blessed, by God, experience the abundant blessing of God, you have to preach this, and we're going to talk about tithes. There's a difference between tithes and offering. Offering is like beyond tithes. So let's say you don't have anything to tithes today, but you still want to give, then you put offering. It's beyond your tithes. So today we're going to talk about tithes. As Pastor Bert read it in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9 to 10, it says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine." And that is a promise. When God made the promise, you can be sure that He will gonna do it. Maybe not on our time, but in His time. But He will do it if you take His word for it. Accept Him. Accept what the promises of the Lord. Now, what is the origin of tithes? Go to the origin of tithes. Tithes from the Old English Theogotian tenth, a custom dating back to Old Testament times and adopted by the Christian Church. Tithing was taught at early Christian church council, including the Council of Tours in 567, as well as the Third Council of Macon in 585. Tithing remains an important doctrine in many Christian denominations. First tithing in the Bible is in Genesis chapter 14, verse 18 to 20. This is when Abraham at that time gave 10 of what he got, to Melchizedek. So this is where a lot of people, they say that tithing only starts at Moses. No, it actually started long before Moses, in the time of Abraham. So and then Moses officially put it into law. So that is what is the origin of tithing. So it started in the time of Abraham, not actually in the time, because a lot of people will say, that is under the law. We're not under the law now. We're in the New Testament, and we're going to talk about that later on. So that's the most common mistake. And then number 2, tithes are only in the Old Testament. Common mistake. But you will see in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 11, verse 42, when Christ is scolding the Pharisees, "But woe to you, Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and every herbs, and neglect justice and the love of God. This you ought to have done without neglecting the others." In Luke chapter 18, verse 12, "I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get." Many Christian denominations hold Jesus taught that tithing must be done in conjunction with a deep concern for justice, mercy, and faithfulness. This is the thing. In the Old Testament, tithing was taught because nobody knows how to tithe at that time, because they're just a new nation. They just came out from Egypt, from slavery. So they're trying to build their nation, and God said, you have to teach them. Remember in Deuteronomy chapter 6, Moses, God told Moses that you have to put the law that I gave you, you have to put them on the doorposts, of your house. You have to teach them to your children. So in Old Testament, they started teaching tithing. So now, when New Testament came, everybody is tithing already. You don't have to teach them. They already know. Even the Pharisees tithes. That's why it was mentioned in the Bible. The thing about in the Bible, not because it was not mentioned specifically, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Dito po nagkakaproblema yung panahon, in the time of Adam and Eve, di ba, they will always tell you, I don't know if you experienced this, somebody told you that if only Adam and Eve was the people in this world, how did Cain, Abel got married? Because in those times, the writer of Genesis in that time his story is about Adam and Eve. But that doesn't mean wala silang anak na iba. But if you will go to other books, you will see that they have other kids. But because they're telling, let's say, I'm writing a letter to my family in the Philippines. I said, oh, this Sunday, it was a blessed Sunday, Pastor Bert prayed, and I preached, and the praise and worship sing. That doesn't mean, if you will take literally what I wrote, then you will see, are the people there are only Pastor Bert then and the praise and worship? Where are the others? That because I did not mention them, that doesn't mean Sister Paige is not here, or Sister Penny is not here. So, because my subject is about the team, Pastor Bert, and the sermon. In that time, ang team nila is Adam and Eve, and Cain and Abel. But that doesn't mean wala silang ibang family. That's why, in this case, in the New Testament, everybody is tithing. So, ang kailangan nilang matutuhan, the one that they need to learn is justice, mercy, and faithfulness. So that's why the disciple, Christ did not focus on the word tithing. Because everybody, parang ganito if you already know how to drive bike, why would I teach you how to drive bike? Maybe I should teach you how to drive car. How to fly a plane or something. If you know already something, you don't have to, as a teacher, I don't have to teach you that. So, in the New Testament, everybody already know how to tithe. That's why even the Pharisees tithe. And the problem is, they use this as like a self-righteousness. That's why in Luke chapter 8, it says, I fast twice a week, I give tithes of all that I get. This is the one who's talking here is a Pharisees. He saw a tax collector, publican. He saw him and he said, Lord, thank you that I am not like this sinner. I fast twice a week, I give tithes, So in the New Testament, everybody is tithing already. What they need to learn is not tithing. What they need to learn is justice, mercy, and faithfulness. That's why it was not mentioned most of the time in the New Testament, the word tithing. So, but that doesn't mean that because it was not mentioned, that doesn't mean it's no longer in the New Testament. No, it's there. It just was not mentioned repeatedly because everybody knows already how to tithe in the New Testament. And in the third, God did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 to 20, it says, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota or not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever relax one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceed that the scribe of the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So, Jesus Christ, He did not come to abolish the law. Actually, He came to fulfill them. So, and tithing is a very, very important part in those times because that's how you, parang ito when Abraham was blessed by Melchizedek, overwhelming blessing, he gave his tenth to Melchizedek. He gave his tenth. Actually, where we are blessed by God, our overwhelming reaction, is, Lord, I wanted to give more, When I was in the Philippines, I used to be, when I was studying theology, as I said in the past, I grew up in a poor family, so I have to work. I am a waiter by profession in restaurant industry, hospitality industry. But on-call waiter lang kami. I'm just an on-call, so I don't have a regular job because I'm studying in the seminary. So my payment is like 250 pesos per function, per wedding or binyag or whatever celebration. So sometimes I got once a week, sometimes I got once a month call from the restaurant. So I don't have a regular job, but 250 in the early 90s or mid 90s is big enough, especially in the province, but not enough. Big enough, but not enough for you to 250 a month to survive. So one time the pastor preached about tithing, and he said about that God is challenging us that if you will test me on this, if I will not open the floodgates of heaven. And then I said to myself, okay, Lord, this is what you said to your word. I'm taking your word for it, and I'm taking the challenge. So I did. So every time I receive something, I put it in until now I have a booklet. I put my tithes, so I won't forget, whatever. And even though I only have that few money, I still have savings at the end of the month. Imagine, before, sometimes every week, 3 times a week, I have a call that we have a function, and yet, kulang pa. But now, like, once a month, twice a month lang kami nag-ano, and yet, at the end of the month, meron pa akong sobra na pera. And sometimes I ask myself, how did that happen? We have a deacon before in our church in the Philippines. He has a pharmacy. He said that in the Philippines, because I'm a former medrep po ako dati. Pag medrep kasi kailangan maganda, gwapo. Hindi pero lang. So, medrep ako noon. Pumunta ako sa kanya, sabi ko, and then na-realize, nasa siya, pag tinayuan ka ng Mercury Drugs or Manson Drugs, at maliit ka lang independent, maliit ka lang ng pharmacy, patay na. You're done. Because when we go to Manson Drug, let's say yung paracetamol, when we sell it to them, let's say piso ang puhunan. Sa Mercury Drugs, yung piso, may tubo na sila doon. Because when they order so many, so talagang matindi ang discount nila sa amin. Sa mga independent, sa small time pharmacy, when we go them, piso, ang isang puhunan pa lang nila yon. Siyempre, magkagagdag sila, 150 o 2 peso to gain some profit. Sabi niya, harap niya Manson Drug, Mercury Drug, kinapatay siya, tsaka Manson. So, sabi niya sa akin, alam mo, Brad, the only advantage that I have on these big companies is that I am closed on Sunday. So, yeah. Actually, Sunday is the most, because everybody works, Monday to Friday, and sometimes Sunday is the time that you can go out or, buy something in the pharmacy. But he said, the only advantage that I have is that I close on Sunday. Because, even though he is closed on Sunday, he never missed a mark of a target. So you have, as a businessman, you have a target income. So you will know that you're earning money. So he never missed, that target income. Even though tinapatan siya ng kasi alam nangyari, it's a main road, MacArthur Highway, and jeepneys coming from Clark, they usually stop in his pharmacy. That's the corner. And they stop, that's the parang boundary, ending of they have to get out. So, and then they have to cross to the other side. But because let's say, you're coming from Clark, you're tired, when you came out from your jeepney, you're tired to wait and cross the busy highway just to buy in Manson Drug or Mercury Drug. So he decided some people, they just buy in this corner store. So somehow God provided something, when you give your time, when you make God as your priority, you cannot outgive Him. So that's why I notice, if I will look back in time, I will see that I am grateful to that pastor who said to me, test God. So I said to myself, okay Lord, even though I only have this money, I will give. Sometimes it's hard, especially if you have a lot of expenses. You have to really have faith in God. Lord, this is the only money that I have. So that's why number 4, accept the challenge of God to tithes. Kamali pa sa G. Dapat capital G. Good. Diba? Okay. Okay. Accept the challenge of God to tithes. Bring the whole tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. Diba? Honor the Lord with your wealth and with your first fruit of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty and your bags will be bursting with wine. And this is coming from God Himself. This is not just coming from Paul or Peter or something. This is coming from God. Saying that, test me on this. Diba? Subukan niyo ako. Diba? So, imagine that. And if we do this, we can experience the blessing of God that sometimes we cannot understand how did we get it. And a lot of people in my years in the ministry, I got saved when I was 15 years old, 13 years old, and then I became a pastor at 20 years old. A few days ago, I celebrated my 44th birthday. And so in 20 years or more in the ministry, I've seen churches, even in our church, the one who complains in the giving are the one who doesn't give tithes. Most of the one who complains in the ministry are the one who doesn't involve themselves in the ministry. But the one who get involved in the ministry, the one who gives tithes, they don't complain. I was thinking, how did that happen? It's because when you are filled with joy in serving God, when you are filled with joy in giving to God, you don't care anymore. You don't care kung ano man yung ano. Now, the question is, one of my friends asked me, Pastor, let's say I have a big money. Kumita ako ng malaki. And then, somehow the leadership in the church is not that good. And the church needed some sound system. Sound system. Can I just buy from my tithes the sound system donated to the church? I said to her, then you don't trust God. I said, how can you say you don't trust Him? Remember, no matter how lousy the leadership, the one who put them there is God. Sometimes I question God why He put me as a pastor. Lord, imagine when Christ went back to heaven, just imagining it, and then the angels, welcome Him, said, Lord, welcome back, we miss you. So, Lord, what's the plan of man's salvation? Well, I have 12 disciples that I left behind and some disciples. You mean to say you're going to entrust the salvation of God, God's plan of salvation to these 12 sinners? Remember, Peter denied you, and Matthew is a tax collector, and all of this, and Paul is a persecutor. How can you trust these people? But God can see everything. He said, I trust it. Mas malaki ang faith ng Diyos sa atin. God has bigger faith to us than our faith to Him, because He entrusts the most precious mission to us, and that is to share the gospel. That's a very, very important mission. So I told him, you don't because these people, your pastor, your deacons, your treasurer, your every leadership in the church, God put them there. And if you don't trust that they can do their job, then you're saying to Lord, you don't know what you're doing. You don't think why you put these people there. So I said to once you still have your tithes, it's yours and God. And then it's between you and God. Yeah. If you don't give it, then you sin against God. But once you give your tithes to the church, it's between the church and God. Your hand is clean now. The blood is not in your hand now. Now, whatever the church do to that money, if they mismanage it, then the church will be accountable to God. So, it will be, once you give your tithes, the tithes will be the church and God will be the one talking. That's why it's very important for us as leadership of the church. We have to, be very careful on our ministry because we have been entrusted by these important things that we need to be faithful to God, loyal to God. So now, but we have to accept the challenge of God in tithing. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruit of your produce. Then the barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will be bursting with wine. So, yung mga bagay na to, all of this, why I'm saying this to you guys, why I'm preaching this, is it I'm preaching this because we're lacking in money? No. Actually, God doesn't need our money. He can, when the Pharisees said, we are lineage of Abraham, and God said to them, from this stone I can make lineage of Abraham. So, hindi natin pwede pagmalakihan ng Diyos eh. God doesn't need our money. He wants our obedience. He wants to see our obedience. Once He see that, then we will experience blessing, that way beyond our imagination. And I experienced that from myself. I never expect God, I will be able, I grew up in a poor family. I never thought that I will be able to finish college. In Clark, there's a lot of airplane from Clark Air Base going over our house. And I always just look up in the sky and said, Lord, someday siguro papasakayin niyo ako dyan. So, on the plane. So, but because I trust God, Lord, sabi ko, whatever you give to me, I will be happy. But if you will bless me, I pray that I will be a blessing also. So, and then, when I accepted the challenge of God, everything changed. Suddenly, there was an opening like, Pastor Glenn, somebody wants to sponsor you to send you to Hong Kong for a conference. Or Pastor, brother pa ako na, di pa ako pastor. Brother Glenn, would you like to go on a mission in Malaysia, Indonesia? They will be a sponsor. So, suddenly, these are the things, kumbaga, sabi ko, I will not be able to do that by myself. And then suddenly, God, He will show people like, when you are serving God without anything, with just pure motive of serving Him, people will notice. People will notice your faithfulness. And they will be blessed. And when they are blessed, they will start saying to you, oh, why don't you go to seminary? Don't worry about expenses. We'll help you. Don't worry about this. So when you experience that closeness to God, when you obeyed God, accepted the challenge, not only in tithing, also in service. Meron naman nagsabi, Pastor, how about this? Can I just tithe my service instead of my money? so I said, when you say bringing the tithes into the storehouse, it means monetary. It doesn't. Now, if you're a farmer, like, let's say I'm a farmer. In the Philippines, I used to raise, I forgot the name of that chicken. They're overgrown chicken. Like, one chicken can weigh up to 7 kilo. So I used to raise those chicken. And every time I have chicks, yung sisiw po hindi every time I have sisiw. So, I always count them and said, 10 yung sisiw, 10 yung chicks, no? So, syempre yung isa doon kay Lord. so, ang ginagawa ko, I tithe my produce, from my farm. And then, when there is a church, I will tell to the church, meron akong 5 manok, na malaki na, pwede na natin katain, na I'm giving it to the church. And then the church, when there is a fellowship, let's say Women's Missionary Union, WMU, BMO fellowship, or the youth fellowship, they use that, to kinakatay nila yun. That's okay, But if you say, give my money in just my service, actually that's different. That's different story. That's why the Lord said, the first fruits, you know, yung pinaka-best na pwede mong ibigay. Yung kay Cain kasi hindi best yung binigay niya kay Lord eh. That's why it was rejected. Abel was accepted because he gave the best offering to the Lord. So if you want to be blessed from whatever you have, do you want to be blessed from the best that you have or from the worst that you have? So we have to always think, what kind of blessing do I want to receive from God? So if God will bless me, do I have to give my best so He will bless me from my best, or He will bless me from my worst? So, yun nga. Kaya kailangan natin, we have to accept the challenge of God. Honor the Lord. So when we give tithes, we actually honoring Him. So what is this? Sabi ng isang member, you know, Pastor, my dream is to give 1 million to the church. You know? And the pastor said, that will not gonna happen. Why? Eh, yung 100 ka, hindi mo kaya ibigay. 1 million pa kaya. So, imagine, a lot of people, they say, oh, mag-baptize na lang ako pag marami na akong pera. Di ba? So, that will not happen. I mean, happen, no? Ang Kapampangan, lumalabas, happen. Happen. So, dapat, ang matapat sa maliit, matapat sa malaki. Habang you start, you know, while you still have small income, you start. Because it will be hard for you to give, imagine 1 million. Kung si Brother Jonathan nanalo ng loto, so, imagine mo yun, di ba? 40 million. So, $4 million, never lang. So, imagine, if you cannot give while you still have few, it will be hard for you to give when you have big. Just think about it. You know, what is the biggest tithes you have ever given to the Lord? Did you have a hard time writing it on the check? You know, even though you already gave it, but did you have a hard time writing it? So that's why that pastor said, yung 100 ka, hindi mo kayang ibigay eh. Diba? Yung 1 million pa kaya. So, he who is faithful in small is also faithful in big. And God will always bless those who bless Him. We cannot outgive God. You give God 5 pesos, He gave you 500 pesos. You know, you give $5, He gave you $500. Look, I try to outgive God, and what I got is more blessing. More blessing and more blessing. And I am sharing this to you, not because I want your money, don't get me wrong. I'm sharing this to you because I want you to experience what I experienced, you know, when I give my tithes. I want you to be blessed. I want you to experience the joy of giving that I experienced in the past. Because if you do this, I guarantee you, you will not get, later on in life, you will tell your kids, you know, you should do this because this is what I experienced, you know. Teach your kids to tithes. Give them a small booklet that they can write their income and then their tithes. Income, their tithes. And when they do that, they will grow, and you will see how God will bless your children growing up. You know, I have a friend, and this will be the last message. In the Philippines, when they started in that church, he's just in Kapampangan, kasama yung farmer. He doesn't own a land. He just worked in that land as a farmer. We call them kasama. You know? Kaya that's why the new people's army, they call kasama kami kang magsasakay. Kasamang Tony, Tony, gano'n. So he just a regular worker in a farm, but he choose to accept the challenge of God of giving his 10%. They're poor, they have like, I don't know how many kids he have. But later on in life, God blessed him. His kids were blessed by intelligence. I mean, matatalino yung mga anak. They grew up very intelligent. They got scholarship from their school. Even though they have no money, the kids was able to get scholarship from University of the Philippines and other prestigious university. Some of his kids are now doctors, engineer, architect, dentist. So, in the end, the one that yung kasama namin to, now he owns the land in that area. He owns, before he's just working there. Now he owns it. And he have like a lot of track for quarry, you know. So he became millionaire basically by just trusting God. Of course, not because you just give this, that doesn't mean automatically, you know, you will, because I think there is a one pastor here in the United States. He was sued by a church member because he said, "Pastor, you said to me, if I give my tithes, I will be rich." No. The Bible said, if you give your tithes, you will be blessed. Sometimes that blessing is not monetary. Sometimes that blessing is a good health, safety for your family, you know, more intelligence for your kids, so they will get scholarship, they will have a better life in the future. So when God said, that's why, if you did not experience going to the hospital, like experiencing operation, you're one of the few in the statistics that never experienced. If you reach 40 and you never, no doctor has opened your stomach or something, you're already in the statistic, because most of the time when you reach 40, you will have at least one operation. Sabi nila. So there are a lot of blessings that we experience in this world that sometimes we taken it for granted. So sometimes we judge God on the things He did not give us than on the things that He gave us. So my Chinese brothers and sisters, God did not abolish the law. He wants us to maintain what the law is saying to us. You know, give our tithes, love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our strength, and love our neighbors as we love ourselves, and accept the challenge of God and give our tithes to the Lord. Let's all pray.